Welcome back to the Lars Larson Show. It's a pleasure to be with you on a Tuesday, and I'm glad to take your calls. We'll get back to those in just a moment. But Frank Gaffney joins me now, the founder and president of the Center for Security Policy. Frank, we've reached a very interesting anniversary today, haven't we?
We have indeed.
34 years ago this week, Iranian operatives murdered 241 Marines in Beirut, Lebanon. And I just wonder, how much do you think things have changed between then and now, since the actor in that case was, well, they were backed by Iran, and now we're giving money to Iran?
Yeah, the things that have changed, Lars, are that we are, I think, ignoring our history with the Islamic Republic of Iran, as it's been called. What hasn't changed is the intense animosity of that regime in Tehran to us. And the anniversary that you're referring to, of course, was a bitter blow to the president I had the privilege of serving, Ronald Reagan. And, an absolute proof positive that the Iranians meant what they endlessly said at the time and have to this day, which is death to America is their policy. And as you say, the fact that we have tendered to them something on the order of $150 billion when there's been no change at all in their animosity towards us. And to the contrary, there's every reason to believe that money is going to not only fuel their terrorism and their regional ambitions for hegemony and, well, their ballistic missile and their nuclear weapons programs. It was the height of irresponsibility of the Obama administration to, as I say, ignore the lessons of history and enable all of that and probably more.
You're noticing now, Frank, that there is some attention being paid to this 2010 Uranium One Deal that you and I have been talking about literally, well, for years, ever since it broke. And, maybe in the largest section, it broke in the book Clinton Cash, which detailed a lot of the Clintons. Yeah, Peter Schweizer's book. But it detailed a lot of their deals that were being done to benefit the Clintons. Finally, now the House Intelligence Chairman says he's going to investigate this. Frank, it's as though the Republicans in charge on Capitol Hill are acting as though they didn't know about any of this, even though you and I and others out in the general public have been talking about it for years now. Why do you think, and do you think they'll actually give us a full investigation in line with going after Hillary Clinton for her misdeeds in this?
I certainly hope so, Lars. And Congressman Ron DeSantis of Florida, who is the chairman of the National Security Subcommittee of the Government Oversight Committee in the House of Representatives, actually let the cat out of the bag, I believe, yesterday, when he said that, these were issues that the leadership of Congress in the last session did not want to address, did not want hearings on, did not want to properly investigated. Now, just so we're all clear, that was Paul Ryan, and before him, John Boehner's Republican leadership. And I don't know whether they're going to be any more serious about it now. I can tell you that as long as the press, or at least the responsible elements of the press, like your own program, are on this, there's a chance. But trust me on this, if the pressure is off, if people begin, thinking that they can safely kick this can once again down the road, they'll do it in a heartbeat. So we need to keep the pressure on. And more to the point, Lars, we really need to get to the bottom of this, because it's not just the Uranium One Deal. It's not just this initiative called Skolkovo, which the United States Army described as an overt technology theft operation. Mm-hmm. At the very time that the Clintons were engaged in transferring militarily relevant technology to Russia. But it's also this so-called ghost story, and I don't know if you've covered this, but my colleague Mike Waller had a terrific piece about this at the Daily Caller Friday. It talks about the extent to which Hillary Clinton's personal circle was being targeted and penetrated by Russian so-called illegals, undercover intelligence operative spies. You know, you've watched, I'm sure, the program The Americans. Well,
Yep.
This is right out of the script of The Americans, actually. But Hillary Clinton and, oh, by the way, Chuck Schumer's machines were being targeted and penetrated by these spies. And when it came to light that the FBI was going to bust them, guess what she did? She got them all out of the country within about 24 hours.
Yep.
Which is unheard of.
By the way,
history of espionage.
Daily Caller, as you referenced, said for a decade the FBI ran an operation called Ghost Stories to monitor and rip apart a deep-cover Russian agent network. Ghost Stories tracked a ring of Russian spies who lived between Boston and D.C. under various false identities. It was one of the most elaborate operations in history. And apparently, you wonder if they were watching the Russian spies so well, what were they doing when they ran into indications that Hillary Clinton, as Secretary of State, was making deals with the Russians? Because you'd think they'd be picked up on the same kind of information at the same time.
Good question. Good question. And my guess is it was exactly the same thing that was done on that uranium thing. Because, again, the FBI under, oh, by the way, Bob Mueller, and then Jim Comey, and under U.S. Attorney Rod Rosenstein, and Deputy Director Andrew McCabe of the FBI. Do these names sound familiar?
Yeah.
All of these are people who are intimately involved in the current completely fraudulent exercise of trying to find some evidence of collusion between Donald Trump's campaign and the Russians. Well, these guys seemingly were knowledgeable of and agreed to cover up what they were finding out about Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton's pay-for-play schemes with their foundation and this uranium deal.
Well, Frank, that's the part I don't understand is why aren't we seeing, are Republicans almost all spineless? Because you would think that some of them, the minute this story broke on the Hill a week ago, on Tuesday night of last week, they would have come out and said, well, clearly Bob Mueller is conflicted out because if he kept Hillary Clinton's secrets, secrets about a $145 million bribery extortion scheme with money directly to Hillary's husband in a uranium deal that gave up 20% of our reserves, wouldn't that automatically conflict him out of acting as the agent to investigate whether Donald Trump is connected to Russia, if he's the guy who kept the lid on Hillary Clinton's ties, real ties to Russia?
You would surely think so, Lars, and you'd be right to think so. But it's not that all of the Republicans on Capitol Hill are spineless. It's just the ones in leadership are. And it tells me a lot about their attitude towards Donald Trump, that they're not doing exactly what you just suggested. In fact, they're enabling this Mueller witch hunt to go on unimpeded and are scared to death that somebody might interfere with it. It makes me think they must want to take this president out every bit as much as the Democrats do.
Gee, I don't know. How would you suspect that if you watched Jeff Flake's flaking out today, as Jeff Flake announced that he was not going to be running for re-election, and clearly the guy's angry because he realizes that the ground is shifted under him. But I don't think he should blame Trump. He should blame the American people who responded to Trump and who saw something in Donald Trump that they clearly did not see in today's Democrats and didn't see in today's conventional Republicans. And they said, we like this guy. And with that shift of the planet under Jeff Flake's feet, he realized, I can't go back to Arizona and get reelected. His negatives are high, his positives are low, and he's essentially out of a job. And the best he could do is stand up and make a lot of noise about the president. Frank, keep up the great work, and thanks for what you do at the Center for Security Policy. We'll be back in just a moment.